Have you ever sat in that heavy silence at a family dinner? Here on Bonds and Stories, we retell those moments, honest every day, sometimes controversial. Every story is a mirror. Subscribe, join the conversation, and maybe find a little healing. They didn't raise their voices. They didn't have to. At the end of a dry roast and overboiled green beans, my parents set their forks down and delivered the line. "You're not part of tomorrow, Maya," Mom said. "Best for everyone if you don't show." Dad watched the water ring beneath his glass. "Let your brother have his day." My keys were in my pocket. The kitchen smelled like lemon cleaner and old coffee, the kind that sits too long. I didn't argue. There was nothing left to trade. The kitchen light hummed overhead. I stood chair legs chirping against linoleum and tucked a stray hair behind my ear so my hands had something to do. Maple Falls is the kind of Ohio town where Friday night lights pull half the county to the stadium. Main Street wore bunting blue and white triangles flapping above Quinn & Sons Hardware. Last winter, when receipts at the hardware looked like a heartbeat at rest, I got the call every dutiful child hears. "Sweetie, we could use your help," Mom said soft, like the prelude to a no. Dad followed with numbers late, accounts freight ace supplier, ready to jump ship. I had a contract from a Seattle startup, $45,000, and a tidy title. I closed the tab. Family first. I rebuilt the place. Nights in the back office, I wrote radio copy you could hear smiling. Come on down to Quinn & Sons since 1979, the bolts that hold Maple Falls together. I ran coupons and yard signs, taped a flyer at the post office, shot photos of paint chips and cedar planks, scheduled posts, answered comments, and set up a Saturday tool demo at the high school. When the bank stopped calling and the lot had cars again, Dad took a breath like he'd been underwater. Mom brought brownies for the staff. Evan strolled the aisle with a clipboard he didn't need and told a customer how he'd retooled our messaging like he was the one who stayed past midnight with the label printer and the receipt tape curled at his feet. "Nice work," he told me, and clapped my shoulder like a boss congratulating a temp. That night, Riley parked on my curb with tacos and a long look. We ate on the tailgate of my old Chevy with our feet in the gravel. The sky went purple, then navy, then black. "They're not going to give you the thing you want," he said. "They don't know how." "I'm not asking for a parade," I said. "Just a name on the door." "You're asking for rain from a stone." I laughed because the alternative was messier. He left the bag and a truth I could barely carry. The wedding gave me somewhere to put my hands. 2 months ago, Mom arrived with binders and tabs and the special voice she uses for assigning chores. Venue options, vendor quotes, tasting notes, timelines. "You're organized," she said, like she was handing me a sentence and not a compliment. I put deposits down. The florist liked the blue and cream palette. I tweaked the band's set list until it felt like a summer night. I called the rental company about a tent and string lights for the lawn. "Make sure it feels premium," Mom said. "Evan shouldn't have to worry about details." He never did. My brother is an excellent story told by other people. He has the right handshake and the heavy watch. He works 2 towns over and still drops by to suggest we move the grilling display because it drives conversions. I said I'd already done that. He said, "Good thinking," like he hadn't heard me. When we were kids, Evan got trophies. I got chores. I learned the number for the plumber and how to keep a ledger honest. Evan learned that Dad's praise arrives quicker than UPS. Some families are houses. Some are rigs, 1 foot on the brake, one bragging about the miles. I know what it is to be useful, to be loved for usefulness instead of a name. Back at the table, the roast cooled. The house hummed like a place with too many dinners and not enough apologies. Mom reached for her wine and didn't drink. She pressed the base into a wet ring, then another, making a chain of circles like something from a classroom worksheet. Dad's jaw worked. Evan texted with his thumb glued to the glass, a private smile on his face. "Tomorrow needs to be clean," Mom said. "No hiccups, no distractions." "I'm not a distraction," I said. "Then help by not complicating it," Dad said. "Just this once." The old shop radio spat static. Evan finally looked up. "Kara's folks are driving in at dawn. I don't want drama." The word landed like a pebble and rippled out, touching everything I had done that still wasn't right. "There won't be," I said, and the budget Mom asked quick as a sparrow. "You've got the bourbon, the upgraded dance floor. We already talked numbers," I said. "There's no room for more upgrades unless we cut elsewhere." Mom glanced at Dad. Dad didn't nod. He didn't need to. The verdict lived in the click of the clock. "You're not part of tomorrow," Mom repeated, gentle as a blade. "It's better for everyone." I didn't flinch. "You rehearse a moment long enough, and when it arrives you can stand inside it." I slid my chair back. I rinsed my plate and set it to dry. Small motions kept me from dropping through the floor. My keys made a soft jingle when I pulled them free. The house held its breath. No goodbyes. I crossed the living room where our school photos still hung Evan in a football jersey, me in a 4-H sash holding a rabbit I raised. The frames were dusty. On the porch, the air had cooled. Down on Main, a motorcycle opened and then shut down. The maples clicked their leaves together. The air tasted like rain. I didn't make a speech. I thumbed the remote on my key ring, and my truck answered with 2 polite flashes. I walked to it, steady the gravel, making its old familiar sound under my boots. The truck turns over on the second try. Headlights wash the side of the house, and the kitchen window blinks once as if the place has eyes. I back out slow so the gravel doesn't spray the hydrangeas mom guards like a border. Main Street is a line of quiet shop fronts, the barber pole still spinning. For No in the Bakery sign flipped to closed, with a thumbprint of flour right on the glass. I drive until the maples give way to the river and park by the boat ramp to breathe where the air doesn't belong to my parents. My phone lights. "Riley, you out." "Yeah, then keep going." I have vendors at 7. I type and put the phone face down on the dash. At 7, I'm on the florist's stoop with coffee and a folder. Petals and pine smells like greenery and cool water and a hint of soil. The owner, a woman with silver hair and a tattoo of a fern on her wrist, drops her shears into a pocketed apron and walks me through the orders. "Blue and cream," she says. "Peonies are done. Delphinium's gorgeous right now. We can run roses if you want spine." Delphinium. I say, tracing totals with a fingernail. I've already wired the deposit. My 10,000 is out there in parts here. A floral arch there. A band retainer, the tent, and lighting the cake. I initial 3 places and circle back to remove the aisle petals that only look expensive once you sweep them up. From there, I cut across to the rental yard on the edge of town, where they keep the tents rolled tight like parachutes. A forklift beeps in reverse, and a man with a pencil behind his ear shows me string lights coiled in plastic bins. Generator's a portable dance floor that locks like tongue and groove. He pats the maple planks. "Oak's back ordered," he says. "Everyone wants oak." "Maple's fine," I say. "It's in the name." He laughs like I told a joke. I sign again and ask about the rain plan. He shrugs. "Tent's a tent. You'll want sides." Sides are extra. Everything is extra. I mark an asterisk on my sheet and slap a sticky note over the number like a bandage. At 10, I swing past the letterpress shop in the next town. You can smell the ink before you see the brass type. The printer, a thin man with black-rimmed glasses and a shirt that reads "Kern or Die," holds up a proof. Evan and Kara sits on cotton paper impressed like a thumbprint. He quotes the rush fee. It could fund someone's community college semester. "We'll go digital for the menus," I say, and feel the printer's sigh land on my shoulder. I eat lunch in my truck with the windows down while the noon siren moans across Maple Falls. A sandwich from the deli and a bag of chips that taste like salt and what you do when you're alone. I make a column labeled "Must" and a column labeled "Nice." Nice has single-barrel bourbon and the 6-piece bluegrass upgrade and a photo booth Kara saw at a Nashville wedding on Instagram. Must has plates and forks and an officiant who shows up sober. The hardware store sits between the feed supply and the barber. When I step inside to pick up twine for pew bows, Dad is at the register moving a line that doesn't need moving. He talks loud enough for people to hear his confidence the way some men do when they're floating their own credit. Evan stands at the end cap pointing at the grilling display I rearranged last week. "Better flow if we push it by the door," he says. "It's already there," I say. "I moved it Friday." He gives me a smile that doesn't touch anything in his face. Great minds. Dad sees my folder and nods at it like it's contraband he doesn't approve. "Don't forget the bourbon, Maya." Kara's father is particular. I remember. And the band, Evan adds. Kara liked the fiddle player. Don't cheap out. I booked the trio. They're solid. I said 6-piece. 6 isn't in the budget. I say it calm, like the word might hold if I don't load it with apology. Mom appears from the office, lipstick, perfect hair, sprayed into a shape you could set your watch by. She presses her fingers to the folder. People won't remember flowers, she says. They'll remember whether it felt elevated. Elevated. It's the sort of word you learn from magazines that sell a version of life that fits in curated squares. I'll make it work, I say, which is my curse and my talent, and leave with twine and a roll of double-sided tape. Afternoon is the band who wants a final set list. I send 3 medleys and a list of songs to avoid. No lyrics that talk about breaking up in the chorus I write. If it's in the verse, fine, nobody listens then. The guitarist replies with a thumbs up and a question about whether they can eat with the guests or should bring coolers. I tell them they can eat because I remember what it's like to be hired and hungry at once. Kara texts a photo of a tiered cake with hand-painted flowers and a gold leaf stripe. This. It's beautiful in the way things are beautiful when you imagine how they'll look in pictures. I call the baker and ask what it costs to paint an idea. She gives me a number that makes my stomach change shape. I order buttercream and fresh flowers and the confidence that no one will notice the difference. Toward evening, I stop at Kara's apartment to drop a timeline. She opens the door in a robe with hair pinned like she's performing a retro commercial. There's a row of shoes in the hall and a garment bag hung like a promise. Her face relaxes when she sees it's me. I thought you were Evan, she says. He keeps calling. Just questions, I say, and step over a dog bed for a dog that's not there. Here's the latest. Vendor arrivals in green. Family photos in yellow. Notes for the officiant in blue. She sits the robe cracking at the knee. My parents are staying at the inn, she says. They told me to let the day come to me. Isn't that nice? It's a good sentence, I say, and watch her mouth shape a smile that knows it is. She looks at the pages, then at me. Thank you, she says, and it's the cleanest thanks I've heard in weeks. She doesn't add for Evan or for Mom or for the family. It lands where it should. I put a pen on the stack and point to the part that says don't text Evan during prep. If you can keep to this, I say it'll all run like a chorus. I'll try. On my way down the stairs, Evan is coming up talking into his phone. We're looking at 6-piece, he says. He nods past me without cutting the call, then pauses on the landing. Did you confirm the bourbon Dad wants Blanton's? Single barrel is allocated, I say. I've got a barrel strength that pours better and doesn't require a miracle. He frowns, like I spoke in code. People notice labels. People also notice an open bar that doesn't run dry at 9. He lifts his chin the way men do when they think height substitutes for being right. Don't nickel and dime my wedding. It's not your money I'm counting. I keep my voice even. It's mine. What does that mean? His mouth says it like I've made a personal attack, not a statement about math. Deposits, I say. Retainers. All the 1,000-cut stuff. I tap the folder against my leg and say, see you at rehearsal, because there's nothing else to say that won't turn into a fight on a staircase. Evening brings checklists. I sit on my apartment floor with my back against the couch and fill little boxes with ink. Place cards done. Ribbon ironed. Officiant script printed. I pull the laces from my dress shoes and relace them because it passes time and feels like control. The radio plays WKMF's Hour of Oldies, and a voice I don't recognize tells the county to hydrate because it's going to be humid. I tape a small sewing kit into my bag. I press my dress. I pour cereal into a mug and eat it dry because milk would mean leaving again. My phone buzzes on the coffee table. Mom, confirm bourbon. Your brother requested Blanton's. Also, Kara saw a photo booth with a neon sign. Can we add? I stare at the message until the screen goes dark and my face stares back. I set the phone down. I take out my ledger and write numbers until they stop leaping. There is a figure you can own and a figure that owns you. I put a line under mine and close the book. I fold the timeline in thirds, slip it into a clear sleeve, and slide it into my bag. The dress hangs from the closet handle, steam lifting out of the fabric in small breaths. The room smells like starch and paper and the faint metal of keys. When I switch off the lamp, the apartment holds its shape around me like a thing I built with my hands, and not because someone told me to. I sleep, and when the sun edges the blinds, I dress and pick up the bag and step into a day I've calibrated down to minutes. The lot out front is already hot. The first cicada winds up somewhere near the fence line. I lock the door and walk to the truck. The keys are light. The engine catches steady. I pull out turn toward Main and keep to the speed limit. The town is waking up one porch light at a time, and I've got a list that fits on one page and a pen that writes in black, not blue. By mid-morning, the venue lawn looks like a map I've memorized. The tent rises in white triangles, ropes staked neat as a marching band. I walk the perimeter with a clipboard and a roll of blue painter's tape looped on my wrist, the kind of prop that makes people believe a plan is real. The rental guys lock the dance floor maple planks, clicking tongue and groove a square of false forest on clipped grass. I mark where the band will set, how the chords can snake without catching heels where the caterer's van should back in. A breeze lifts the edges of tablecloths and drops them again. From the inn, you can hear a housekeeper humming through an open window. Kara appears on the veranda steps with a glass of iced water, and bare feet toenails painted the soft blue she keeps using as a theme. She looks like someone who had good sleep and better advice. "Do you want a straw?" she asks, like this is a beach and not a countdown. "I'm okay," I say. "Band here, cake there, bar in the shade so the bottles don't turn mean." I tap a square on my diagram for the arbor. Florist at 2. If anyone asks about petals down the aisle, we're using grass. It's more honest. She smiles. Evan is obsessed with the neon sign. Then he can rent it with his obsession. A shadow crosses the tent wall. Evan steps in, phone at his ear, voice turned up for effect. "Needs to read Blanton's on the table, not just single barrel. Presentation is everything." He pockets the phone before it finishes saying goodbye and looks around like he built it with his thoughts. We adding up lights. Place looks flat. "It's noon," I say. "Everything looks flat at noon." He points at the dance floor. "That oak. Maple." "Why?" "Because oak is back-ordered and maple's sturdy, and it's what we have." He chews on that unhappy not to win a game he doesn't know. Kara wants 6-piece now. She saw a clip. Kara widens her eyes at me over his shoulder with a smile that says she knows what she's marrying and loves it anyway. "The trio is great," she says. "They sent me a cover of Tennessee Waltz, and I cried, so we're done shopping." Evan lowers his voice like a man offering backroom grace. "Don't cheap out Maya. It's our names on the invitation." "It's my name on the invoices," I say, and check a box so I don't say anything else I'll have to regret in public. By afternoon, group text threads start to bloom. Bridesmaids meet at church 5:30. Groomsmen ties are navy, not black. From mom rehearsal dinner head count is 34. Add a second bourbon. Bill adds ice. I reply with a single noted and drop the phone into my bag like it's hot. Riley shows up at the lawn with 2 coffees he shouldn't have bought. "You look like a person who needs the kind you can stand a spoon in," he says and hands me one. "Save me from men who confuse labels with love," I say. He clinks his cup against mine. "Save me from people who ask for a parade and trip over a thank you." We check mic lines. I write names on a strip of tape and mark a line on the grass where the bridal party should stop so the photos don't eat the arbor. The florist arrives with delphinium tall as arguments and roses cut just in their pride. She slides the bouquet into Kara's hands, and the whole tent seems to lift. At 5, the rehearsal, a congregation of cousins and college roommates who haven't learned each other yet. The minister runs the troops through vows like a middle school coach. Walk stop, don't lock your knees. Forget the ring cue, and I'll save you. Mom stands at the back counting something only she knows how to count. Bill shakes hands in a flagpole shirt. Evan practices his smile. I place a piece of tape where the ring bearer, a 4-year-old in tiny suspenders, will forget to stop, and the minister will forgive him. We reconvene at the restaurant, a private room with a painting of a fish in a chandelier that wants to be in a better building. The table is a river of white plates and sweating water glasses and centerpieces I didn't choose. Evan claps his hands to get quiet and fails. Mom gets quiet without clapping. "Thank you all for coming," Evan says, and says a few things that sound like a toast you can buy online if you don't mind the taste of nothing after. Kara squeezes his elbow when he starts to list his own accomplishments. He blinks reboots, thanks her parents, thanks our parents. The first course is a salad with almonds that ping the plate. The server pours wine I didn't order. Evan leans toward me across the table. "Did you confirm the Blantons?" he says. "They're bringing a barrel strength," I say. "Better pour, less theater. People like theater. Then they can watch a play." He gives me the smile again, the one that won a lot of small prizes in a lot of small rooms. Also, Kara saw this photo booth with a neon sign. We want it. It's not in the numbers. Numbers are elastic, he says, like he's quoting scripture. We only do this once. Harriet folds her napkin on her lap like a curtain and looks at me. Your brother is asking for a moment, she says. We can drop some flowers. Flowers are paid, I say. Then you should have left more room, she says, and makes it sound like I should have stretched a wall. Bill cuts into his steak, uninterested in how his jaw moves the conversation. Just make it nice, he says. How hard can that be? I feel the room shift forks, pausing the couples from Kara's side, trying to decide if they should stare at their bread or the drama. Kara places her hand on the table and breathes like she can smooth a lake. We don't need a photo booth, she says. We'll have phones. Evan's face shudders. He hates being managed. I want it, he says, and there's that boy in him again, the one who believes the middle of the room is his native land. I keep my voice level. If you want it, you rent it. My ledger's shut. Mom exhales through her nose the way she does when a driver forgets to turn on red. Maya, she says, and wraps my name in gauze. Don't be small. The server sets down steaks with a rush relief disguised as service. I cut one chew swallow. I've already put in more than I had, I say. There's no more. Bill sets his knife down carefully, like the table is a museum, and the guard is watching. Don't ruin this for your brother, he says without looking at me. Kara stares at her plate, then up. This doesn't need to be a fight, she says, and her voice is clean and earnest and not enough to push back a tide. Evan smiles, winsome as a campaign picture. Maybe you should sit this one out, he says. You're taking the joy out of the room. The line lands. The room does that soft, tightening oxygen, rethinking its duty. I look at him. I look at our parents. I look at my hands and marvel at how steady they can be when everything has learned to shake. I fold my napkin and set it on the plate. I'll settle my part, I say, and push back my chair. Harriet lifts her chin. The ceiling fan hums. The chandelier throws 5 small moons across the table. Best gift you can give your brother, she says. Sweet as a parable is to vanish. Don't make us manage you in a wedding. There it is. Plain as bread, sharp as glass. A cousin coughs. Someone lifts a glass and sets it down without drinking. Kara shuts her eyes for a blink too long, then opens them. She doesn't speak. She doesn't have to. I stand. The chair legs grate, and the sound pins the memory to the wall. I don't look at whoever is taking a picture because someone is always taking a picture. I don't explain the bill of lading in my bag, the stack of receipts with my name on them, the ledger at home with numbers honest as winter. There are things you say and things you don't say. Tonight is full of both. Outside, the parking lot burns under sodium light. The night has a skin to it, heat shivering above asphalt. When I reach my truck, the metal is warm. I unlock, slide, and close the door, and the quiet comes down like a hood. My hands rest on the wheel and feel like they belong to a person who builds things that hold. The radio is off. The keys wait. The town hums. I breathe until the breath holds steady. Then I turn the ignition. The ignition catches on the first turn. The radio stays off. I pull out Cross Main and park under the one tree that still throws shade behind my building. Upstairs, the apartment is a list of objects, couch lamp, a glass with a ring at the bottom, the dress I steamed and won't need. I set my bag on the table, open the folder, and put the phone in the middle like a stone. Bank first. I give the card number, the dates, the vendor names. The rep asks if I signed if I receive services if the vendor has a cancellation policy. The wedding account is in my name, I say. Deposits are mine. Services are for tomorrow. I do not say I was asked to vanish. I give her the contract PDFs, the emails, the clause that says client may cancel without penalty up to 24 hours prior. She logs reference numbers until my hand fills a page. You'll get emails, she says. Watch for them. I say thank you and hang up. Florist next. I'm canceling, I say. I'll eat the prep fee. Deliveries stop. There's a silence that sounds like flowers drinking water. We can use the delphinium, she says gently, for another bride next week. She refunds the balance. I write the amount, circle it, and press my thumb into the circle until the paper shines. The rental yard manager makes it harder. We've already staged the tent, he says. Crew's rolling in an hour. None of it's erected. I read his policy back to him. Refund less staging fee. He sighs. You're the one with the contract, he says like a man admitting gravity. Bring the card by. I'll run it. The band is a voice wearing a truck stop. We drove in last night. I'll cover gas and half the retainer, I say. Send an invoice. Don't set up. He clears his throat. We were looking forward to the gig. So was I. By 10. I'm down to the cake. The baker picks up on the second ring. I can hear a mixer in the back like rain on tin. We finished the layers, she says. No paint. Buttercream only. Box it, I say. Cut it for the shop. Sell it by the slice. She laughs, not unkindly. It'll move, she says. Everyone loves a wedding they don't have to attend. I forward each cancellation to my own email and drop the confirmations into a folder named with today's date. The screen fills with proof that the future looks different at noon than it did at dawn. At the venue, the lawn is exactly what you get when you remove the add-ons grass tables air. The inn manager stands with a clipboard and a tired smile. Vendors are calling, she says carefully. What do you want us to tell the family? Tell them the contracts in my name were canceled, I say. Tell them the rest is theirs to arrange. She nods. She's been at enough county banquets to know when a storm isn't about the forecast. My phone begins its choir. Mom, then Dad, then Evan, then a number I don't recognize and don't answer. Voicemail stacks like plates. You've ruined it, Mom says, voice thin with outrage and something that used to be fear. You're a disgrace, Dad says, which is easier to say than his own part in the thing he's watching fall apart. Evan doesn't leave a message. He texts screen caps of liquor labels and a sentence about respect as if a font could confer it. I drive to the rental yard. The manager runs the refund and slides a receipt across the counter with 2 fingers. You sure, he asks, because men like to be certain that a woman has counted every cost, financial and otherwise. I'm sure, I say, and sign the slip like a person who can hold a pen without shaking. On the way home, my phone vibrates so hard it walks across the passenger seat. I pull into the lot, set the parking brake, and read what the town has made of itself in 20 minutes. Maple Falls Moms has opinions. The thread is a quilt sympathy for Kara speculation about me, 4 women arguing about whether oak or maple even matters if you're in love. Harriet weighs in under her full name like the mayor of a story. She's always been difficult, she writes, and my chest flicks like a light. I put the phone face down. Riley knocks once and lets himself in, dropping a grocery bag on the counter. Protein bars, he says. And the fizzy water you pretend you don't like. He looks at my table at the list of reference numbers. You calling or cutting? Both. He opens the fridge and rearranges the bottles like recent history can be organized. You sure you're okay? I take the ledger from the shelf and set it beside the phone. The column of Alco has started to bend back toward me. Okay is a big word, I say. I'm upright. Upright's underrated. He doesn't ask about love or forgiveness. He takes the trash out and comes back with 3 boxes from my hall closet. We pack without ceremony books. The small lamp I like, a frame photo taken in August, before any of this when the world was only light and grass. He doesn't say anything about the dress still hanging on the closet handle, and I don't either. The dress is a solved equation, it will not be worn. At 2, the texts change key. Cousin posts a photo from the venue rows of empty tables like a field after harvest. The caption has no words, only 2 dots and a line. Someone else posts a picture of Kara on the veranda with a glass of water, Grace pressed into a human shape. Underneath, she deserves better. The sentence isn't meant to hurt me. It finds the target anyway. The florist calls. We're loading out, she says. Do you want the bouquet? It's yours by the math. No, I say, give it to the inn staff. I imagine a housekeeper taking it home, a teenager with blue nails placing it on a dresser, and not knowing the arithmetic that delivered it. By 3, the bank emails land case opened. Case opened. Case opened. Each subject line lowers the noise inside my skull. I forward one to myself and archive the others because the point of proof is to hold, not to stare. I email a shop owner in Dayton who has asked twice if I'd ever consider selling my book of small accounts. The coffee roaster, the feed store, the yoga studio that only wants a newsletter when the season changes. If you're still interested, I write today's a day to be decisive. He replies in 6 minutes with a number that makes my throat work. We trade a 1-page agreement. Money hits by 4. I write it down in the ledger and speak it out loud so it's real in 2 languages. Then I do the plainest thing. I pack the rest of the apartment into the Chevy. the radio that lives on my counter, the mug from the hardware with Quinn and Sons printed crooked the blanket my grandmother knit when all our names lived in the same house. Riley fits the last box into the back like he's Tetris with hands. Keys, he says. I hold them up. They sound small. He leans in the doorway and breathes out. You want me at the lot or not? Not, I say. I touch his shoulder. Thank you for showing up. That's the easy part, he says. On Main, the afternoon is tilted toward glare. I stop at the light by the barber and look right, because habit says look right. The hardware sun faded, the bell hung over the door, Evan's clipboard resting where I left it Friday. The window throws my reflection back, and for a second I am two people, the one who stayed and the one who carries her life in boxes. The light turns green. I don't rush. At the edge of town, a hand-painted sign counts church suppers and raffles. I pass the field where high school kids will clap a season into existence under metal bleachers. I pass the county line without ceremony. Trucks move like intentions on the highway, and I find a speed that belongs to me. Somewhere past the river, I pull off for gas. The station is the kind of place that believes in beef jerky and scratch-offs. A boy in a uniform shirt wipes the same spot on a windshield for too long. I buy coffee that tastes like persistence and a map I don't strictly need. Back at the pump, the wind lifts my hair and drops it again. My phone buzzes. Mom again. I let it go. Then Kara's name appears. I stare at it long enough to feel the shape of the choice. I answer. Her voice is tired and clear. Are you safe? Yes. Okay? She breathes. I'm sorry for what they said. You didn't say it. I thought I could bridge it, she says, like she's talking to herself. I couldn't. We were building different things, I say. A hum on the line. Somewhere near her, a door shuts. Take care of yourself, Maya. You too. We hang up. The call leaves a space that isn't empty. I finish the coffee, trace the county on the map with a thumbnail like a kid in a back seat, and fold it along the crease that leads west. Back on the road, the sun lowers until it sits on the hood. Corn throws light like a mirror. I roll the window down and let the day in. When I crest the long hill before the interstate splits, the town shrinks behind me into a collection of roofs and the idea of a place where my name is a job description. I keep my hands at 10 and 2. The truck hums steady. The sky runs wide. I reach New Mexico on a day the sky forgets to blink. The land opens and keeps opening until the seam of it disappears. By late afternoon, the road drops toward Santa Fe, and clay roofs start repeating like a word said too often. I follow the signs to the rail yard and park where the track lines slice the parking lot into strips of sun. The air is thin and clean in a way that asks for lungs. I take it in until my chest loosens. The first place I sleep is a week-to-week above a bike shop. The stairwell smells like rubber and chain oil. I carry boxes up in 2 trips, then sit on the floor with my back against the white wall and let the quiet sort me. Outside, a bell rings on the rail trail. A dog barks and then regrets it. I boil water on the hot plate drink from a mug my grandmother made with her thumbprints fired into the clay and fall asleep without asking anyone's permission. Morning brings light that doesn't knock. I walk to the rail yard market because moving forward feels like a decision I can make every minute. Tables bloom with peaches and tomatoes, chile ristras hung like punctuation. I buy a loaf at Dominguez Panaderia from a woman who wraps it in paper with hands that know how to keep things. You knew, she asks, as if the dust on my boots has its own accent. Yesterday knew. She nods like that's an acceptable age. Eat before you work, she says, and slides a small bag of cookies into my palm. On the house, I find a co-working table by a window and send 2 emails I wrote in my head somewhere outside Amarillo. One goes to a trail outfitter who posts gorgeous photos and captions that read like receipts. The other goes to a roastery whose logo belongs to a better story. The outfitter replies first, "You free for a walk and talk?" We meet at a trailhead where the dirt is the color of paprika and the air smells faintly of piñon. He talks supply and margins and the way tourists want to pay for an idea. I talk signage POS language guide bios that read like someone you'd follow, not a brochure. We shake on a month, then 3. The roastery sends beans with a thank you note before the ink on our rate is dry. I rearrange their shelves like I'm reorganizing a thought and shoot their flat whites in the kind of light that explains itself. The owner, a woman with a streak of silver in her hair, and the patience of someone who's watched water decide to boil presses her hands to the counter. "It looks like us," she says. The sentence lands somewhere I've been saving. In the evenings, I learn the streets by failing to get lost. I walk Canyon Road while the galleries spill light onto gravel. In one, the manager points at their hand-lettered sandwich board and says it gets the job done. It doesn't. I trade 3 headlines for a sketch on a receipt and come back the next day with a layout that doesn't apologize for wanting eyes. They hire me for the month and give me keys that click like a promise. News from Ohio arrives sideways. A photo on a cousin's feed the hardware's front window with an open sign that looks tired. A week later, another photo empty shelves reflecting the neon barber pole across the street. Then a link to an auction notice with our family name spelled right and everything else wrong. The comments are a weather report. Some mention the economy. Some mention Evan by name. No one mentions me. I sit with the phone face down until the urge to carry something that isn't mine burns off. When the letter comes, it's from my mother's hand. The envelope is cream, the script careful. I stand at the little mailbox under the bike shop stairs and know it before I open it. Maya, it begins, then loops through sentences I could recite her health, the stress, how families bend without breaking if everyone tries at once. She wants me to come home and fix a thing she won't name. She underlines home twice. Upstairs, I place the letter on the table and make tea, because talking to hot water is simpler than the other options. I take a new sheet of paper and write 1 paragraph that holds without wobbling. I hope you feel better. I am not returning. Please take care of yourself. I fold it, address it, and walk it to the box. The flag goes up. The world does not tilt. Work finds its stride. The outfitter's bookings climb after we stop selling gear and start selling the days those boots can buy. The gallery rolls out a Thursday series that fills a back patio with people who look like they belong to the same bright idea. The roastery adds a card beside the register beans for the road, and the barista tells me she hears it 5 times a morning. On Saturdays, I help Mrs. Dominguez tie twine around loaves until the twine runs out and we twist bakery boxes closed with our fingers. She tells me the weather through what the dough did that day. I tell her the week through numbers that behaved. Riley calls once the hardware auction goes live. The line clicks like distance every few seconds. "You seen this?" he asks. I saw. "You want me to say the part where none of this surprises me?" "No." "Then I won't say it." There's a pause big enough to stand in. "You okay?" I watch a thunderhead building far off like a city deciding itself. "I have a table," I say. "Clients who pay on time. A woman who slips cookies into my hand so I remember to eat. I search for a word that doesn't invite argument. "Steady." "That sounds like you," he says, and we let the silence sit until it's finished. One afternoon by accident, I pass a wedding in the courtyard of an adobe church. The couple stands under a string of papal picado that flutters like pages turning. There's no dance floor, only swept earth, and shoes scuffed in a happy way. A fiddle starts a song I recognize from a list I once compiled. It's not mine to listen to, so I keep walking. The music follows for a block, and then remembers it belongs somewhere else. I sign a lease in a place with a real kitchen and a wall no one has drilled too many holes into. I mount a corkboard and pin the first invoice with the word paid stamped in red so it's the last thing I see when I pick up my keys. I tack up a paper map of the Dale Ball trails and mark loops I've walked with a pencil that erases easy. In a drawer live my grandmother's mug, a sewing kit, and the small ledger that tells me what I've built in numbers that don't argue back. On a weekday morning, the light hits just right, the kind that makes dust perform. I brew coffee and set my laptop on the table that came with the place and was better than it needed to be. Outside, a cyclist rings a bell. Inside, the kettle sings when it's done. I stack client folders, slip today's list on top, and slide a pen into the coil so I can find it by feel. When I open the door, the hallway smells like bread from downstairs working its way up. I lock behind me. The key fits clean. The hallway is bright. On the wall by the door, I've screwed in a small brass hook, and a single thing hangs from it, the truck key on a strip of leather. It swings once, then rests. The air is cool. The day waits without insisting. I step out and take it as it is. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story resonated with you or made you reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story. I'll see you next time as we continue exploring more journeys and lessons together.